Hello guys, my name is Anna and I'm from Ukraine, and I have decided to vlog daily since the start of this awful war with Russia. So on my channel you can find videos about Russian war in Ukraine, Russian crimes, and of course the future victory of Ukraine, our culture, language, and other things that I try to answer when I get questions from you. So if you're new to the channel, please subscribe because the world needs to know more about Ukraine, and there are many beautiful and interesting things that Ukraine can tell the world. And today it is going to be a little bit of a horror story, and we are going to speak about monsters. When you were children, perhaps many of you loved watching TV shows, looking for monsters in the forests, in the swamps, in the caves, and believing they exist. Then we grow up, we realize that the world is so complicated, we have many problems, we have economic hardships, problems at work and other stuff, and we forget that monsters actually exist. We tend to believe these were just fantasies and legends. And then when you live in war, you start to realize that monsters are actually true. They exist and they are Russians. So not all of them are orcs, whom I visualize as a little bit dumb people who don't know what they are doing, and different kind monsters who torture, kill, film, and share. And that is why today we will talk about Wagner Group, who is a private army led by Prigozhin, Putin's cook and friend, oligarch traditionally, because in Russia you can only be visible and important if you are an oligarch, and a person who decided to demonstrate ordinary Russian army that his private army can be much better and successful, and that's why for half a year he tries to take Bakhmut. I will remind you, Bakhmut is an important but a small town in Ukraine. But during this time, they commit awful crimes, and that is the greatest tragedy of this war. When we think that victory is coming, we forget about the days spent on battlefields, we forget about the days without electricity under heavy missile attacks. We forget about hundreds of Ukrainian children who died during this war. That's why when Ukrainians are asking for more weapons, for more support, for faster actions, please support us, because every day costs extremely high prices, and these prices cannot be measured because these are human lives. So on the 17th of April, that is yesterday if I'm not mistaken, a Russian resource Gulagu Net, which is close to Gulag, a camp, labor camp, and we have a separate video on that in Soviet Myths Debunked, so you can check it. So this media resource, decided to interview two Wagner fighters, and they made awful confessions, awful even for Russian ears that got used to lots of dirty and ugly stuff. So this two men, I have even wrote down their names, Azamat Yaldarov, which is not very Russian actually, and Alexei Savage, spoke about the crimes they committed in Bakhmut and Soledar. And they confessed killing Ukrainian children and teenagers, executing their own comrades, and blowing up Ukrainians prisoners of war. One of these men, in a very sad manner, confessed that he had to perform lots of cruel tasks, including shooting in the head a 5-year-old girl in Ukraine. In general, they confessed they killed more than 18 Ukrainian children and buried them. Why? Because they decided they have to follow the order. They received the order, and it was to clean up all the city, all Bakhmut, all Soledar. It reminds me once again of Nazi times. They often liked to camouflage mass executions of people by namings like cleaning. So Russians were cleaning Ukrainian territories of Ukrainian children and Ukrainian teenagers. And they killed pensioners, they killed women, so they were not fighting with Ukrainian armed forces even. They were fighting with Ukrainian children. And they don't question these orders because we all know war, even the most awful war, has some rules. And these rules allow you not to follow the orders if they are 100% criminal. And shooting a 5-year-old girl in the head, executing her for just being Ukrainian, and once again a proof of genocide. We say that this is Russia. Russia is still a country, Putin is still a president, and Prigozhin is still a politician and a person that can travel the world, eat the food, and watch the news. So these Wagner soldiers spoke about lots of crimes that they committed. They were also involved in the executions of their own comrades, which is once again typically Russian. Russians like to shoot people for not obeying the orders, that's why they do it, and they cultivate violence. From what I googled, and it seems like trustworthy resources, international resources, close to 17,000 prisoners from 35 different regions of Russia joined Wagner army. So they try, like in normal world, people are sent to prison in the belief they can change. I'm not sure it helps, but anyway, the idea is something like that. And in Russia, they take away prisoners. They try to make them more angry. Perhaps they choose people who are violent and brutal, and they invite them to the battlefields in Ukraine to commit all these atrocities, to commit all these monstrous crimes against humanity, to shoot Ukrainian children, to bury Ukrainian children. Can you imagine like a daily routine of a Wagner group soldier? And then if they do not obey, they execute their own comrades. And this is the atmosphere of violence. This is the atmosphere of hatred. This is the atmosphere of this monster world. And I wonder, honestly, what will happen to Russia and Russian society when all of these soldiers, not all of them will be killed in Ukraine, some of them will return home? What will Russian society be like in a year, in a two, with all these people committing atrocities, getting used to human death, to human tortures and other things? And for example, Prigozhin also likes filming it, and all these things that terrify us, and the majority of you cannot even finish watching a video, and that's normal because we're normal human beings. We don't like seeing a human head cut off. This is normal. This is actually very good that we don't like watching such videos, but Russian soldiers like filming these videos, like doing the things filmed on these videos, and they are Russian citizens. And there are many of them, and they will return back to their cities and villages, and they will create a new order. So maybe that's just exactly as Putin sees the birth of a new man, who said that this new man is something good. So the more I think about Russian society, the more I am terrified. Because even during war, people have to preserve some norms. Otherwise, they turn into monsters, not animals, because animals also have some rules that they follow. And this is tragic, and this is dangerous, and this is not the moment that we can negotiate. This war is totally unjust. Russia attacked a free, independent, democratic country, Ukraine, that did not impose any danger on it. It attacked it just because it wants to revive this state monster of Soviet Union. And the way it attacked Ukraine goes against every rule of war, with violating of all international standards, and like nothing really bad happens to the people who make orders in Russia. Putin is still alive. He has lots of allies, including China and other countries. They try to separate the world, to create this new acts of evil that we have to discuss perhaps in some of our future vlogs. And lots of their representatives commit awful atrocities daily in Ukraine. During this war, close to 500 children died. And these are children just like yours, European children, American children, normal children, not dangerous, not created in biolaboratories. And the world sees it all, and we are in great trouble because when such things happen and such things become known, you cannot unsee them. You cannot forget them. You have to live with that. And we must build a strategy of how to live with that, not losing humanity. And the answer is that Russia must collapse and Russia must change. Russia cannot stay the way it is at the moment. That's why I think we have to start imagining future world and future Russia in it. But of course, it has to be very different. Thank you so much for your support of my country, Ukraine. Thank you for buying me coffees and becoming my patrons. Subscribe to my Twitter and Instagram account. You can find the links below the video in the description of the video. Also, we have a Discord channel and a shop where you can buy t-shirts with me, raccoons, and Ukraine, most importantly. And all of the money that we receive, we spend on the development of the channel in future, professional video filming, and also on the support of Ukrainian armed forces. But most importantly, speak to your politicians, speak to those who doubt, and remember that every day costs really high price for Ukraine and imposes more and more dangers on the world. Slava Ukraini!